This is Engage New York, Module 3, Lesson 14, Concept Development. Now, yesterday we learned how to solve fraction problems by estimating the answers without using our pencils. And then we also used those rectangular fraction models to kind of get an idea of what we were doing. Today we're going to build upon that knowledge by continuing to solve fractions in our heads before using paper and pencil. Now, look at this problem here. 2/3 plus 1/5 plus 1/3 plus 1 4/5. What do you notice? Well, I notice that this fraction and this fraction have the same denominator. And I think, ooh, perfect. So I think, ooh, nice. 2/3 plus 1/3. I put that together and I go, oh, well, that's just 1. That's 3/3. 3/3 is equal to 1. Then I also notice that 1/5 plus 1 4/5. And I go, oh, well, I notice that I have 1. I pull out the 1 whole and I have 1 plus 4. That's 5/5. So 1 5/5 is 2. So my answer is 3. And I didn't really have to solve anything. So that's what we're actually doing. We're trying to look at how to group numbers or rearrange the problem in order to solve it. So that's our big idea for today's lesson. So being able to look at the problem, rearrange or regroup the problem so that it's easy to solve. So let's look at problem 2. So we have 5 7/8 plus, minus. We're going to subtract 7/8. Oh, well, that makes things nice and easy, doesn't it? So 7/8 minus 7/8, and then I'm only left with my whole number 5. Okay, let's keep going. So now I have 1/2, and I'm going to subtract 1 1/2. So if I have 1 1/2, what could I do here? Well, what if I took away the subtraction sign? And I wonder what would happen then. I wonder if I can do that. Think about that for just a second. Okay, so I just threw something at you right now, right? I threw the idea of adding those together because technically I'm taking away or subtracting 1/2 and 1 1/2. So if I put them together, I'm really subtracting 2. So think about that for a second. So I took 5 7/8, I subtracted 7/8. Then these, if I put them together and then I subtract it, I can do that. So think about that again for just another second. I took these two and put them together and then subtracted it from the whole. All right, let's keep going. Problem 3. So I have 2 5/6, subtract 1/3, add 1/6. What are you going to do there? How are you going to attack that problem? Think about it and try something and tell me why you did that. So, all right, so what I did is I grouped 2 5/6 and I added 1/6 to that because it has that common denominator. It has that like unit. And it is addition. So 2 5/6 plus 1/6, well, that's going to be 2 plus 6/6, which is 3. Now I can subtract 1/3. And what we've been doing anyway is in some of our sprints, remember 3 subtract 1/3. What is going to be left over is 2 1/3 because 2 1/3 plus 1/3 would take me back to 3. So now number 4. So I have 14 over 3, which is an improper fraction, plus something, a number, plus 9/4 is going to end up giving me 8 11/12. So what's going to be my strategy to solve this? I want you to kind of think back to what we were learning about area. Remember length times width? length times width equaled area. And then if we had one of those variables and we were missing one, we could do the inverse operation. Remember that? All right, so let's think about the inverse operation. Let's think about if I subtract 14/3 from this side and subtract it from this side, and then subtract this guy and move it over. So let's rewrite this problem kind of like what we were doing with area. So let's start with 8 and 11/12, and then let's subtract. Now we're going to subtract both of these together, right? Both of these numbers have to be subtracted from here. So why don't I try going 14/3 plus 9/4, and then take that group away from here. So let's go over here, and what is our common denominator going to be? If you have to scoreboard, here's your scoreboard. So now 8 and 11/12 subtract. Now I'm going to have 14 times 4, so 14 times 4, 16, 26, right? 4 times 4 is 16. 4, 5, that's 56. Glad I checked my work. So 56 plus 27 over 12. Now, what is that going to give us? So 8 11s subtract. So 56 plus 27, what is that going to give us? All right, so here I 8 and 11/12, and I subtracted. So I put these two together, added them together, and then we're taking that whole away from 8 and 11/12. So 8 and 11/12, and I found my common denominator, multiplied, added, and then I converted my improper fraction to a mixed number. So it ends up being 6 and 11/12. How convenient, because it's 8 and 11/12 subtract 6 and 11/12 is 2. So our missing number here is 2. All right, problem 5, we have a number that subtracts 15, subtracts 4.5, and altogether it ends up being 7 3/5. So how are we going to organize this problem in order to solve? What would you do? The whole is missing, so we'll add up all of the parts to find the whole. So let's rewrite the problem like 15 plus 4.5 plus 7 3/5. And then it equals question mark, right? And that question mark is going to be the number that goes in our original problem. That's what we're solving for. So let's go ahead and just pull out our whole numbers. So 15 plus 4 plus 7. And then let's group our two fractions together. All right, so we end up, what is 15 plus 4 plus 7? So this is 7 plus 4 is 11, right? So that would be 26 plus 1/2 plus 3/5. So what is our common denominator going to be? That's right, it's going to be 10. So now let's rewrite this as 26 plus 5 plus 6 over 10. So 26 plus 11 over 10. Well, we know 11 over 10 is 10 over 10 plus 1 over 10. So this is 26 plus 1 1/10. And then we end up with 27 1/10 as our answer. So 27 1/10 is what actually goes here in that missing spot. All right. Finally, our last problem, problem 6. I would like you to try to solve this problem on your own. And then I want you to come back and measure, like evaluate how you solve this problem versus the way I solve this problem. You know what? That should not be S. I was wondering why that was S. It should be 5. So 6 3/4 plus 3/5 subtract some number is going to give you 5. All right, so rewriting this problem, I'm going to bring my 5 over. So I'm going to subtract 5 from this side, and when I subtract 5 from this side, I have to subtract 5 from this side. So I have 6 3/4 plus 3/5, and I have subtract 5. So 6, and then I'm going to group these together. I'm going to find a common denominator. I pulled my whole number out, and I have my whole number out over here, right? So I end up with 15/12 over 20. So 6 plus 15/12 over 20 minus 5. Then I have 6 and 27 over 20 minus 5. I'm going to pull out my 20 over 20, and that leaves me with 7/20. So my problem is evolving here. 6 plus 1 and 7/20, subtract 5. So I'm going to add these two together. So I end up with 7 and 7/20, subtract 5. It gives me 2 and 7/20. So how did you solve this problem? But remember, I keep trying to show you that algebraic way of isolating and getting rid of numbers on one side of the equal sign. So if this is positive, you have to go negative. If it's plus, you have to go minus in order to get rid of it and exit this off. Then whatever you do to here, you do to here. And boy, that worked out by putting it over there. So the answer that goes in this is 2 and 7/20. All right, that will do it for concept development. Next, you'll work on problem set, and all you're doing with problem set is rearranging the terms so you can add or subtract mentally. So remember, reorganizing so that you can do it without having to do a lot of work. Then fill in the blank to make the statement true. So just like those last few problems we were doing where I was grouping and regrouping in order to make it easier to add or subtract. Remember, this is a positive, so what are you going to do? Put it on the other side. Then you have the same thing for these problems. You have 2 word problems, and it could be addition or subtraction because this lesson is incorporating both addition and subtraction. But I have a feeling that these 2 problems you're going to need to regroup or rearrange the numbers in order to add or subtract easily. All right, that'll do it for concept development. Come back after you've attempted and completed problem set. Come back and check your work so that you know you'll be successful on the homework.